In the early hours of February 14, 2000, a 9-year-old girl left her home on foot. It was still dark outside, the streets were quiet, and a cold rain was falling across Shelby, North Carolina. Most of the town was asleep. Inside a small home, Asha Degree got out of bed. She did not wake her parents. She did not wake her older brother. She gathered a few belongings. She placed them into a backpack. And sometime after 2:30 in the morning, Asha left the house. She locked the door behind her. What makes this moment so difficult to understand is not just what Asha did, but who she was. Asha Degree was not known to wander. She was not known to break rules. She was not known to leave home without permission. Yet on this night, she walked away alone. Outside, the weather was poor. Rain fell steadily. The temperature was low. Visibility was limited. Asha wore light clothing. She did not bring a coat. At some point after leaving her home, Asha began walking along Highway 18, a 2-lane road that runs through rural parts of Cleveland County. Hours later, as morning approached, drivers would report seeing a child walking along the roadside. Some slowed their vehicles. One turned around. And when that vehicle approached, the child ran off the road and disappeared into the darkness. That child was believed to be Asha Degree. This detail alone has haunted investigators for years. A 9-year-old girl, walking alone, in the rain, in the early hours of the morning. No one knows exactly where Asha believed she was going. No one knows what she expected to find. What is known is that she was never seen again. More than 2 decades later, the question remains unchanged. Why did Asha Degree leave her home that night? And what happened after she stepped into the dark? This is Evidence in Silence. In this episode, we examine the disappearance of Asha Degree, a case that has remained unresolved for more than 20 years. Asha vanished from Shelby, North Carolina, in February of 2000. Despite eyewitness sightings, extensive search efforts, and the discovery of physical evidence, her whereabouts remain unknown. The case has drawn national attention, not because of what was found, but because of what was never explained. Asha's disappearance challenges many assumptions about missing child cases. There were no signs of forced entry at her home. There were no indications of family conflict. And there was no clear evidence that she was taken against her will. Instead, the available information suggests that Asha left her home voluntarily, a conclusion that has only deepened the mystery. Investigators have spent years trying to understand what could motivate a child described as cautious and rule-abiding to leave home alone in the middle of the night. Over time, the case has produced more questions than answers. Why did Asha pack a bag? Why did she choose that night? Why did she avoid help when drivers approached? And perhaps most importantly, was she truly alone? In this episode, we will walk through the known timeline leading up to Asha's disappearance. We'll examine who Asha was, what happened during the night she left home, the eyewitness sightings along the highway, and the evidence that was later discovered. We'll also look at the investigation that followed, and why, despite decades of effort, the case remains unresolved. As with all episodes of Evidence in Silence, this account is based on publicly available information and avoids speculation beyond established facts. What remains is a quiet record of events that cannot be fully explained, and a child who has never been found. Asha Degree was 9 years old in February of 2000. She lived with her parents and her older brother in Shelby, North Carolina, a small city where neighborhoods were quiet and families often knew one another. Those closest to Asha described her as shy and reserved. She was polite, soft-spoken, and cautious by nature. Asha followed rules. She was not known to wander. She was not known to disobey her parents. And she was not known to take risks. At school, Asha was a good student. She took pride in doing well and was described as responsible for her age. Outside of school, Asha attended church regularly with her family. She participated in youth basketball, although she was not especially confident on the court. Family members later recalled that Asha struggled with confidence but tried hard to please others. Importantly, there was no history of behavioral problems, no record of running away, no signs of distress at home. Investigators would later emphasize this point repeatedly. Everything known about Asha suggested stability, which made her disappearance deeply difficult to reconcile with the child her family knew. When investigators returned to the question of motive, why Asha left, they found no obvious explanation. There were no reports of arguments, no threats, No disciplinary issues. Nothing that suggested a desire to leave. This absence of warning signs would become one of the most unsettling aspects of the case. On the evening of February 13, 2000, Asha's family followed their normal routine. It was a Sunday night. The family spent the evening at home before preparing for the week ahead. At some point, a storm moved into the area. Rain began to fall and wind picked up throughout the night. Sometime after 2:30 a.m., Asha got out of bed. Investigators believe she gathered several personal items and placed them into a backpack. She then quietly left the house. The door was later found locked behind her. No one inside the home heard her leave. The timing of her departure is one of the few points investigators generally agree on. What remains unknown is why she chose that moment. The weather conditions were poor, visibility was low, temperatures were cold. Asha did not take a coat. Despite this, she continued walking. At some point, she made her way to Highway 18, a rural road that runs through parts of Cleveland County. Why she chose this route has never been fully explained. There is no evidence she was chased or forced from her home. The prevailing belief among investigators is that Asha left voluntarily, though what influenced that decision remains unclear. As morning approached, motorists began reporting something unusual. Several drivers later told investigators they saw a child walking along Highway 18. The child matched Asha's description. One motorist reported slowing down to check on her. When his vehicle turned around and approached, the child ran off the road and into the woods. This detail has remained one of the most haunting elements of the case. A child alone, in the rain, running away from help. Investigators believe these sightings were credible. They established that Asha was alive and walking along the highway during the early morning hours. Why she avoided assistance remains unclear. Some investigators believe she may have been afraid of strangers. Others suggest she may have believed she was not supposed to be seen. Whatever the reason, the sightings confirmed that Asha did not vanish immediately after leaving home. She was moving. She was making decisions. And then, she disappeared. More than a year later, in August 2001, a construction crew made a discovery. Buried near a roadside in Burke County, approximately 26 miles from Asha's home, was a backpack. The backpack was later identified as belonging to Asha Degree. The way it was found raised immediate questions. It appeared to have been deliberately buried. Inside were several personal items, along with objects that did not belong to Asha. Investigators have never publicly disclosed all of the contents. What is known is that the discovery confirmed Asha had traveled far beyond her neighborhood. How she reached that location remains unknown. There was no clear evidence explaining whether she traveled on foot, by vehicle, or with assistance. The backpack deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. Over the years, investigators have explored multiple theories. Some have suggested Asha may have been lured away. Others have considered accidental injury or exposure. Each theory raises questions, and none provide complete answers. Law enforcement has maintained that there is no evidence Asha ran away intentionally. They also stress that the case remains open. Despite renewed efforts and advances in forensic technology, no arrests have been made. The lack of physical evidence has made definitive conclusions difficult. What remains is a case built on fragments, sightings, objects, and unanswered questions. More than 2 decades have passed since Asha Degree disappeared. Her family continues to seek answers. Law enforcement periodically renews public appeals for information, emphasizing that even small details may be significant. Advances in forensic science offer hope, but so far, no resolution. Asha's disappearance remains one of the most puzzling unsolved cases involving a child. A quiet reminder of how easily a life can vanish, and how long the silence can last.